There is a hidden state of mind, once practiced by ancient warriors, that can completely rewire how you face your biggest challenges. And ignoring this state might be the very reason you hesitate on the dreams that matter most to you. We are living in the golden age of information. You can learn any skill, start any venture, access any data point. With all this knowledge at our fingertips, anyone should be able to build a remarkable life. But we all know that's not how it works for most people. Even with endless knowledge, so many still feel stuck on problems that seem solvable. This leads to one powerful question. The core issue today isn't a lack of information. It's a surplus of hesitation. We have so much data that we become frozen. We can't pick a direction, we second-guess every source, and we stall. You dream of launching a project, but you get lost in research. You consider a career shift, but you plan for years. You have a personal goal, but you dissect it so thoroughly the passion fades. Then you wonder, why can't I just take the leap? The answer is clearer than you think. You are trapped in your own thoughts. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean you are lazy or lack ambition. Overthinking has much deeper origins. You'll see some claims that people make tens of thousands of choices a day. But more grounded research points to hundreds of conscious decisions daily. Every single one of these choices drains a bit of your mental fuel. It requires focus, judgment, forecasting. Now, mix in your personal doubts and fears. The outcome? Total mental gridlock. You become so focused on figuring out the perfect how that you never actually begin. For centuries, Japanese tradition has recognized the symptoms of a cluttered mind. They even developed a specific concept for the mental state that breaks you free. They call it Mushin no Shin, the mind without mind. Don't let the name confuse you. This isn't about mystical emptiness. It's about a profoundly practical way to move through the world without the noise of constant thought. Take the legendary swordsman, Miyamoto Musashi. If you enjoy these topics, you likely know his name. In his final work, he wrote something revealing. In the void, one finds truth. Principle resides there, the path is clear, and the spirit is open. This wasn't about meditation. This was about life and death. In a duel, if you pause to consider your action, you lose. There is no time for, let me evaluate his stance. There is no space for, I'll compute the perfect strike. You must move, intuitively, or you fall while still thinking. And here is the raw truth for you. Your life, in its own way, is a series of such duels. Not literally, of course. But every time a chance appears, you face two options. Seize it, or think about it until it vanishes. Most people default to the second path. Not by choice, but by conditioning. Our education trained us to overanalyze. The professional world taught us to compare endlessly. Our culture programmed us to dread failure. So now, you're caught in a loop of thinking, planning, and preparing, but never doing. Until all you have left is the haunting question. What if I had just started? That is one of the heaviest sentences a person can utter. But there is a path forward, and it doesn't require more thought. It demands less. It requires embracing the way of Mushin, a space where you act without over-attachment, where you move without internal friction, where you exist free from the cage of your own cognition. Does this sound difficult? Perhaps. But it is accessible. And in this video, I will guide you through how to unlock it. But before we go further, I want you to share in the comments. What is that one thing you desire to do, but find yourself stalled just by thinking about it? A new venture, a creative pursuit, a lifestyle change? Write it down. Now, let me share an account that could shift your relationship with hesitation. Chapter 1. The Man Who Couldn't Start. This narrative applies to any area of your life, from your career to your personal passions. You know that person who everyone believes is destined for greatness? The one with raw talent, who untangles complex issues, who commands a room when they speak. Yet, for some reason, they never truly begin. This was the story of David Reed. David was 31. He had a degree in marketing. He worked as a coordinator at a reputable firm. But everyone around him sensed David wasn't meant to be a coordinator. He was born to create. Whenever a campaign was faltering, David was the one to fix it. Every time a client was confused, David clarified everything. Whenever the team lost direction, David provided the map. He possessed a natural strategic instinct, and everyone saw it, except for David himself. Because David was plagued by the very problem we're exploring, he overthought everything, especially about his own path. Every time an opportunity knocked, David entered a deep analysis spiral. A mentor once suggested he start his own agency. He spent 4 months investigating models, fees, competitors, legal structures. By the time he felt prepared, the moment was gone. The landscape had shifted and his anxiety had multiplied. On another occasion, a contact asked him to lead a new division. He deliberated for months, and while he was weighing the pros and cons, his contact hired someone else, and the division succeeded without him. David wasn't incapable. He was a captive of his own cognition. Was he scared? Absolutely. But it wasn't the fear that held him back. It was his attempt to outthink the fear. And the more he analyzed, the more obstacles he discovered. What if I fail? What if I'm not qualified? What if I regret this? These questions are unanswerable because they concern a future that hasn't happened. But David felt that if he just thought hard enough, he could predict and control what was to come. Here's a spoiler: you can't. No one can. And that was precisely what a woman named Hannah was about to show him. Chapter 2. The Encounter with Hannah. Hannah was 58, Japanese-American, born in Osaka, and moved to California at 35. She ran a small, successful ceramic studio. It wasn't a massive enterprise, but it was stable and deeply respected. Hannah met David at a local creative summit. David was there for his company. Hannah was showcasing her work. But what grabbed Hannah's attention wasn't David's professional role. It was his potential. David was explaining a concept to a group, and Hannah, passing by, stopped to observe. The way he connected ideas, how he simplified the complicated, his intuitive grasp of what the group needed to hear. Hannah saw something David couldn't see: untapped ability. After his talk, Hannah approached. "You have a real gift for this," Hannah said, her voice calm but direct. David gave a modest smile. "Thanks, I just try to help." "No, you do more than help. But you do it for other people's visions, not your own." David was taken aback. Hannah went on, "I have an idea. I'm looking to expand my studio's reach. I need someone who understands branding and audience. Someone like you. Would you be open to a conversation to explore a potential collaboration?" David felt a jolt of excitement. This was the kind of break he had imagined. A real chance with someone established in a field he valued. But instead of accepting, he said, "Can I get back to you on that?" Hannah smiled, not with disappointment, but with understanding. "Of course, let me know what you decide." And David walked away, with his mind racing. Chapter 3. The Cage of Cognition. David spent the next 3 weeks in turmoil. His sleep suffered. He built complex models, ran simulations, studied the ceramics industry, read about partnerships. What if I don't understand the art world? What if our working styles clash? What if the studio doesn't succeed? What if I leave my secure job? Each question spawned a dozen more, and every potential answer revealed 100 new worries. He wanted a guaranteed outcome before committing. But life doesn't offer guarantees. After 3 weeks, Hannah called. "David, have you had a chance to think?" David hesitated. I'm still working through a few details. I need to be sure it's the right." Hannah gently interrupted. "Let's meet for tea tomorrow. There's something I'd like to share." David agreed, his stomach in knots. But that meeting would change his trajectory. They met in a quiet tea house. Hannah ordered matcha. David, an espresso. "David," Hannah began, her gaze steady, "what's really holding you back?" David took a breath. "I'm worried I'm not prepared, that I might not have the right skills, that it could all go wrong." Hannah nodded. "And when do you believe you will be prepared?" David had no answer. "You won't," said Hannah, "because you aren't waiting for readiness. You're waiting for a guarantee, and guarantees are an illusion." David felt a tightness in his chest. Hannah continued. "In Japan, there is a principle my father taught me. He practiced Aikido, and he always spoke of Mushin, the state of no mind." David looked curious. "No mind?" "Yes. But it doesn't mean being thoughtless. It means being free from obstructive thinking, free from paralyzing doubt, free from the fear that shouts louder than action." Hannah paused, sipped her tea. "In a martial arts exchange, if you halt to plan your counter, you are defeated. There is no time for over-analysis. There is no room for hesitation. You simply respond. Your training takes over. Your mind must step aside." David was captivated. "Do you know why I asked you to collaborate?" Hannah inquired. "No, because I saw in you what you cannot see. Skill, insight, potential. But I also saw something else. You are trapped, not by a lack of talent, but by an excess of thought." David felt the truth of her words resonate deeply. "I was once like you," Hannah said softly. "When I first came to America, I was terrified, afraid of not succeeding, afraid of being an outsider, afraid of losing my way. And I nearly didn't open my studio because of that fear. I was almost paralyzed by my own planning." "What changed?" David asked. "I remembered Mushin. I remembered that thinking doesn't conquer fear. Action does. You will never have a guarantee, but you can have conviction. And conviction isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite its presence." Hannah leaned forward slightly. "You don't need to know the entire journey. You only need to take the first step. The path reveals itself as you walk it, not as you stare at the map." David wiped his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, he felt a shift, a weight lifted. "I'm in," he said. "I want to do this." Hannah's smile was warm. "Good. We begin on Monday." Chapter 4. The Emergence of Flow. David didn't sleep that night, but it wasn't from worry. It was from anticipation. He started learning about Mushin, and the more he discovered, the more it clicked. It wasn't about abandoning thought. It was about not letting it become a barrier. It was about acting with full engagement, but without being attached to a specific result. It was about trusting the journey, not trying to control it. He read about Miyamoto Musashi, about the concept of Fudoshin, the immovable mind, and everything started to align. Every time he had been stuck before, it wasn't due to a lack of knowledge. It was due to mental congestion. He didn't require more information. He required less internal interference. On Monday, David started working with Hannah, and immediately he noticed a difference. Hannah didn't overplan. When a gallery expressed interest, Hannah didn't spend weeks perfecting a proposal. She drafted a concept, shared it, refined it, and sent it. It doesn't have to be flawless from the start, Hannah explained. It just needs to be authentic. We can evolve it as we go. David, who always sought perfection before sharing, was astonished. But it worked. Clients appreciated the speed, the honesty, the collaborative spirit. And David started to absorb this. He stopped waiting for the flawless strategy. He started acting with the best approach he had now. He stopped fearing missteps and started viewing them as information. He stopped obsessing over every possible variable and started flowing with the key ones. And something remarkable occurred. The studio's profile grew, not because David became more intelligent, but because he became more fluid, liberated from the prison of overanalysis, free from the need to micromanage every outcome, free to simply create. Within 6 months, the collaboration between David and Hannah was thriving. They were more than colleagues. They were a team. And David was experiencing something new. Purpose without the constant pressure. Action, not analysis, is the antidote to fear. Chapter 5. The Journey. A year later, Hannah had a proposal for David. "I'm visiting my family in Japan, in Osaka, and I'd like you to join me." David was surprised. "Really?" "Yes. I want you to meet people there who embody Mushin in their daily lives, craftspeople, teachers, ordinary people with extraordinary presence." David felt a sense of awe. "You helped bring new energy to my work," Hannah said. "Now I want to offer you a new lens on life." They traveled soon after, and what David witnessed in Japan transformed him. He met a calligrapher who didn't sketch. He didn't hesitate. He simply breathed and let the brush move. If the mind is busy, the hand becomes stiff and the line loses its life, he said. He met a chef who didn't rely solely on recipes. She tasted the air, felt the ingredients, and composed. Cooking is not a formula. It is a conversation. And you don't think your way through a conversation, you feel it. He met an Aikido master who, at 75, practiced daily. "I do not fight the energy coming toward me. I blend with it. The response is already there, not because I decided it, but because it is the natural outcome." Finally, David grasped the full depth of Mushin. It wasn't about being unprepared or reckless. It wasn't about ignoring knowledge. It was about acting from a place of deep intuition, not from a place of anxiety. It was about trusting the wisdom you've accumulated instead of constantly seeking external validation. It was about living in the present moment, releasing the fantasy that you can control tomorrow. When David returned home, he was a different person. He hadn't erased fear, but he had learned not to let it dictate his choices. He didn't have a crystal ball, but he had learned he didn't need one. He couldn't control the future, but he had learned to build it through consistent action. Chapter 6. The Science of Presence. But this isn't just ancient wisdom. Modern science corroborates the principles of Mushin. Researchers have studied brain activity during states of peak performance. In athletes, musicians, and top performers, they found a consistent pattern. During these high-flow states, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's center for deliberate thought and analysis, shows reduced activity. Meaning, when you are at your best, you are thinking less. Another study on elite decision-makers found that when they tried to consciously control intuitive choices, their accuracy dropped. Why? Because your subconscious processing power is vastly superior to your conscious thought. Your brain handles millions of data points every second, yet you are only aware of a tiny fraction. When you try to force everything into conscious awareness, you create a bottleneck. It's like trying to run software meant for a supercomputer on an old machine. It crashes. Because high-level performance isn't about conscious calculation. It's about embodied intuition. Some researchers call this transient hypofrontality, or the flow state. Life operates on the same principle. Mushin. This isn't philosophy, it's cognitive science. It's the understanding that your body, your instincts, and your learned experiences hold far more intelligence than your conscious mind can ever articulate. And when you stop overmanaging, you perform at your highest capacity. The warriors of the past knew this intuitively. We now have the data to prove it. Chapter 7. Embodying Mushin. So, how do you actually live this way? The key is not to add another technique, but to remove the barriers. First, stop chasing guarantees. Pursue purpose instead. A guarantee is about the future. Purpose is about the present. You can never be sure your project will succeed, but you can be clear on why it matters to you. And that purpose is fuel enough to begin. Second, practice until knowledge becomes instinct. If you want mastery in any area, train until the action feels automatic. David didn't become effective by studying theory alone. He became effective by doing the work repeatedly until his intuition took over. Third, think small, but act now. You don't need the grand, perfect blueprint. You need the very next small, obvious step. And you take that step today, not next week, not when you feel ready. Today. Fourth, reframe failure as feedback. Water doesn't fail when it hits a rock. It simply finds a new path. Did you stumble? Learn and adjust your course. Did a plan not work? Pivot to the next one. Mushin. It's not about avoiding errors. It's about continuous adaptation. And fifth, trust your engagement, not the outcome. You cannot control the end result, but you can control your commitment to the process. And when you fall in love with the process, results often follow as a natural byproduct, not as a strained objective. The path is made by walking, not by waiting. Chapter 8. The ultimate insight. Here is the most profound realization of all. You cannot find Mushin because you are already in it. Reflect on this. As a child at play, you didn't think about playing. You just played. When you were last completely absorbed in a favorite activity, you weren't trying to be absorbed. You just were. In your best moments of flow, you weren't attempting to enter a state. You were already there. Mushin. It's not a skill you acquire. It's a state you remember. It's about unlearning the habit of overcomplication. It's about rediscovering how to live without the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. It's about returning to your natural state before the world told you that you must have everything figured out. David understood this. Today, he and Hannah have a flourishing partnership. But more importantly, he has a sense of calm. Calm with uncertainty, calm with the journey, calm with the inevitable stumbles. This calm doesn't make him less effective. It makes him more resilient, and resilience is true power. Because external achievements can fade, but inner freedom, once cultivated, stays with you forever. At the core of his teachings, Musashi conveyed, perceiving the way, you see the way in everything. He was speaking of life itself. So, Mushin is not a tactic. It's a mode of existence. It's waking up without the dread of your to-do list and simply starting. It's making choices without the crushing pressure of doubt and simply deciding. It's living without the myth that you need a perfect map before your journey and simply taking the first step. Perhaps this is how you were always meant to live, moving, aware, and unburdened. But you've been too busy thinking about life to actually live it. So, Here's my final challenge for you. Let go of overthinking. Embrace movement and discover that Mushin isn't a distant destination. It is right here, in this very moment. You simply need to cease striving and start being. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel Wines of Thought. More content to help you live thoughtfully is on the way. Leave a like if you found this valuable and comment below. What is the one thing you will start doing, not just thinking about, after this? Thank you for your time and attention. Remember, be present, walk with purpose, follow your path. I'll see you in the next video.